All right, welcome everybody to the 1 p.m. event. We are recording these so that we can have our clients that can't be here today, they can view them after the fact, or if there's something that you missed or want to go over again, you can also watch it. We have other events all day. At 9 o'clock, we have our technology. At 12:30, we have games. And at 1 o'clock, we have these events with different topics. Also, on Friday, we have at 2:15 our support group. So, as Maddie said, during the recording, if there's too much noise, she will mute you, and you can unmute yourself at times when you want to have something to say. If you can keep the noise down in the background, that would be the best for the sound quality. And we also want to let you know that I hope, it looks like a lot of people are on here, so you must have gotten the email about the new meeting ID. We also have text reminders if you'd like to sign up for those. They usually go out about an hour before the broadcast. We have Facebook, tells you what our topics are for the week, as well as we'll tell you here daily. We also have, let's see, what's today? Today is, we're talking about retinitis pigmentosa. Tomorrow, we're going to be discussing living alone with low vision. And Thursday will be orientation and mobility, followed on Friday by stress management and eating healthy, or not. And then support group. So,
Terry.
Yes.
I was going to say on Thursday for Orientation Mobility Day, we're going to be talking about problem-solving scenarios.
Okay, problem-solving scenarios on Thursday with orientation and mobility.
We have some challenges.
Terry, yes. How do you sign up for the text messages?
You just give us your phone number and we'll send it off to Elliot and have him text remind you, whatever. And you need to let us know which ones you want to be texted, if it's for the 1 p.m. events or if it's for assistive technology, whichever. Okay?
Hey, Pam, Maddie. If you have clients who you want to sign up, you and I can go through that process after this, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. So without further ado, we have Cathy here today and Matt, who are going to discuss retinitis pigmentosa. So yes. Let's get started.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Cathy. I'm an instructor here at the Lighthouse, and my eye condition is retinitis pigmentosa. So I thought I'd speak from experience and a little bit of knowledge. And joining us today is Matt, who has also has retinitis pigmentosa, and Matt has helped out with our adjustment to vision loss classes, and he's been a peer facilitator many times and a very good one. So he's going to bring a lot of his experience and knowledge to this also. So Matt, I'm going to turn this over to you and let you introduce yourself and kind of give your history and kind of let us know how you figured out you had an eye condition.
Matt is muted.
Yeah, I think he's muted. So if you're on the phone, *6 to unmute. If I knew the last 4 of his phone.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. How you doing, everyone? My name is Matt Kinjemi. I'm wearing a hat because I haven't had a haircut and I look like a crazy man, so I leave the hat on. Anyway, again, my name is Matt Kinjemi. I originate from New York City. I grew up in Brooklyn, moved to Queens, and then I moved to Florida. I guess when I was around 27, I was very active in sports, diving, martial arts, baseball, all kinds of sports, and I started getting headaches. And I didn't understand why I would be getting headaches. I figured migraines. That went on for a while, and then I decided to go to an eye doctor. When I went to an eye doctor, let me step back a second. When I was a young child, about 7, 8 years old, my father took me to an optometrist or an ophthalmologist back then because I couldn't see the pin on the floor. He told me to pick up a safety pin. I couldn't see it. And that's when they found out that I was nearsighted. couple of years after that, I went to an ophthalmologist, and he said, there's something wrong with his eyes. I don't know what it is. He said, I've seen it before, but I don't know what to do with it. He said, but you should watch him as he gets older. Fast forward now to 27 years old, forgot about that doctor, forgot about everything that happened. And I went to New York City, and I went to a specialist, an eye specialist I was recommended to. And he told me that you have what's called retinitis pigmentosa. I didn't know what that was. There's nothing to do with your headaches. He says the headaches are just regular migraines. He said, but you do have an eye problem. From there, he sent me to Massachusetts Eye and Ear, and I worked with a Dr. Elliot Burson in a special program for 7 years. And they had me on a vitamin A with palmitate. That was the thing they were trying to see if it would help people with retinal diseases to stabilize or to even correct and cure. After 7 years, the study closed. It didn't do much. They went into gene therapy and I guess electronics to try to implants, to see if they can put implants. That's where their new study had gone to. I'm still in contact with them. I'm on their list, but I don't really do much with them anymore. So anyway, fast forward again till I'm 50, 60. I started losing the peripheral, very noticeable. From 27 to about 40, I didn't really notice anything. From 40 to about 55, I started noticing that I was banging into things more. And then from 55 on, it was like I had to keep making excuses why I didn't see somebody. Somebody would come up to my desk and work and talk to me, and I have to find where they were. I hear their voice, but if they kept moving, I couldn't see them. So I guess I knew since I was 27 that I had the disease. I did look it up. I did go to Mass Eye and Ear. I knew all the symptoms. I knew what to look for. And I guess I adjusted. I started walking much slower. I was a very fast walker. I still studied martial arts. I still dove. I still do all the sports things I was still able to do because that's all my central vision, and it was okay. I had a very bad vision. I had 2200 as a regular vision. That's why I had corrected glasses or lenses. And so everything was going along pretty good. Then I had to go for an eye test for my auto to get my license renewed. And some people say it was the grace of God. Some people say it was, just the way it was. But I did pass the test. But I knew I was having trouble with my periphery. I joined a help group in Brooklyn for retinitis pigmentosa, and they all yelled at me and said, you shouldn't be driving. And they didn't know what I could or couldn't see. At that time, I was still able, I felt, to drive without being a danger. So I stayed with them for a while, and then again, I stopped going to that group. And like I said, I moved to Florida. When I came to Florida, my decision to come was based on that I wasn't going to get a license again. I couldn't work anymore. My job entailed, I was a technician in telecommunications engineer and technician. And I knew I couldn't go travel to see customers anymore because I couldn't drive. So I said, this is time to retire. I worked for AT&T, I worked for Cablevision, and I worked AT&T for 34 years, Cablevision for 10 years. And now I'm in Florida, and I didn't pass my test down here. They had a better test here than they did in New York. So, but anyway, I've adjusted. I've learned different things. Again, take your time. Don't rush. I still bang into things quite often. I still hit my head a lot. It's just that you move automatically. We all have a different vision loss. We all have a different situation. But we all have that same symptom that we have a loss of vision. And no matter how hard I try, there are times when you get up and walk or turn or go somewhere. That's when all the trouble starts. So I constantly tell myself, calm down, relax. Don't do things too fast. Don't leave the microwave door open. Don't leave the cabinet door open because that is an accident waiting to happen. I joined the Lighthouse, I guess about 5-6 years ago, I guess. I don't exactly know how much. But that was one of the best things that ever happened, I think. It opened me up more than I ever thought before. Whereas back in New York, there was only about 4 friends that knew what I had. Nobody else knew. Again, I didn't tell anybody in work because I didn't want to be looked at differently. But when I came to the Lighthouse and I learned all the skills through Latricia and all the other people that they have there, I don't want to leave anybody else, so I won't name everybody, but it was a great experience, a great feeling. And it was almost like a coming out, I guess. I don't worry about telling anybody what I have. As a matter of fact, I try to get people who have other retinal diseases, glaucoma or I can't think of the names now, but all the different. And I tell them, why don't you go to the Lighthouse? It's a good place to go. A lot of people I come in contact with, I'm not ready. I'm not there yet. And that's exactly where I was. And I try to explain to them, you're not there yet, but you don't want to be there and then have to learn. You want to learn before you get to the point where you actually are in crisis and you need to get help. So I try to put that out there, and every time I see friends, I ask them how their eyes are doing, how they're doing, and I have quite a few friends who have macular degeneration, dry and wet, and it's an amazing thing. Like I say, I tell them of my situation, and I spoke with someone at the Lighthouse. I forget her name now, but she does the outreach for people, and I asked her if she would give a class once I can set it up before the virus started. I wanted to have a group come down from the Lighthouse and just go over vision loss. What our church does, I also belong to the Knights of Columbus, a Catholic men's fraternal organization, and we do a lot of charitable work, and we do a lot of family night, community, social nights, and on the social nights, I have the family, so I do things that pertain to a family. Food for families over at St. Joe's Food Pantry, breakfast with St. Nick, their East egg hunt. And I wanted to have on our social night, which is we have them 4 times a year, I wanted to have the Lighthouse come down and give them a little talk about what they bring to the table and what you can get from it, what benefits you can get. And that's basically my history. I'm here to see. This is my first time on the web, on the Zoom for Lighthouse. I've been on Zoom with my family. I've been on Zoom with our prayer group that we have. So that's my history. That's where I am. And if anything I can help, I'm here to listen and also share whatever I can.
Thank you, Matt. My history is that, well, Matt, you're the only one in your family that had RP, correct?
Yes, my father died at 54. He may never really known he had it.
Okay.
My mother lived to be 92, and she had glaucoma. So that was all she had. And I don't know of any other person in my family. Most of them died younger, but I don't know of anybody who had a visual problem other than regular glasses. They all had hearing problems and stomach issues, but nobody in my family had a visual, situation that I know except for me.
Okay. Because our family is the opposite. It started with my mom's father. He had problems with his eyes, and they diagnosed it as RP. And then my mom and her sister had it. And then I had it, and my 2 cousins have it. And, now our kids they're showing up with it. So we have in the family, and we talk about it a lot. So we kind of knew what to expect. When we were little, we would play hide and seek at night when the relatives were visiting, and we'd always go outside in the dark and play, and that was never fun because part of retinitis pigmentosa is you're not able to see in the dark. So, that made hide and seek a lot more fun. I kind of noticed that when I was little, and then when I was in high school, I noticed a big trouble walking around the band room, around the music stands. I was bumping into things, so I knew I was losing my peripheral vision. And the funny thing with the doctors, the eye doctors, because we knew what was in the family, we were always checking when I get an eye exam. And the doctors seemed reluctant to say, yes, you have this eye disease. And it wasn't until 1976 I had tripped over something and broken my elbow and got a electroretinogram at the Cleveland Clinic. And that electroretinograms, if you've never had one, they're just a fun thing to have happen. They stick these suction cups in your eyes, and they have electrodes attached to them. And you get lights flashed at you at different speeds and different intensities. And your reaction to these light flashes kind of indicates whether you've got retinitis pigmentosa or not. Matt, have you ever gone through that?
Yes, when I was up at the Mass Eye, they give me the electroretinogram, the peripheral tests, and all of that. And it was kind of very hard to sit there with that thing flashing in your face.
Oh, I know.
To this day, if I see an ophthalmologist, I go to Dr. Neffenegger, who I feel is very good. He's helped me mentally has helped me. He's the one who got me really to go to the Lighthouse.
Okay.
And when he does that test with shining the light in your eye, I just can't stand that. So.
Yeah. Now my cousin refuses to let them shine the light in their eye because part of the RP is you're sensitive to light, and they feel too much light in your eyes can trigger the advancement. So, you know, they encourage you to wear sunglasses a lot and stay out of bright sunlight, which is very helpful in Florida. But I finally got cane training in 1998, and my O&M instructor, she was like, well, you don't want people to think you're drunk, you know, because you're weaving and bobbing and running into things and bumping into people. And, you know, so getting the cane and getting some skills with the cane was a very big benefit to me to get around more easily. And it was hard to get used to doing it because I felt like the spotlight was on me when I'd use the cane. But as soon I realized that a lot of people didn't even notice it. So as long as I was getting around easily, that was fine. So I like to travel, and, you know, I've been on cruise ships and I've been to conventions in different cities, and my trusty cane is always with me. A friend of mine calls it the stick of power because it would kind of open up the way when we were in a crowd. So I always ended up being in the front of the crowd, clearing the way, and everybody was behind me enjoying that benefit. So that's pretty much in a nutshell. Had cataracts. I think cataracts kind of goes with the RP. But the thing that is interesting is everybody who has it progresses at a different speed, a different rate. Everybody in my family, we all have experienced RP differently. Some have noticed it early in life, and others have noticed it a bit later. Some has progressed slowly, and some people's RP has progressed quickly. So you can meet 10 people and they'll have 10 different stories to tell you about their progressive with the disease. Let's see. With usually it's diagnosed around childhood or adolescence. And one of the facts I found out was that by age 40, most people with RP are pretty much legally blind and have a field of vision of about 20 degrees. And Matt, I think you're one of the exceptions as far as, you know, it showing up later in life and progressing. Once it did show up noticeably, you know, then yours progressed very quickly.
Well, I was diagnosed when I was 27.
Okay.
And right now, I think Dr. Neffenegger said I have about a 3% field of vision. If I put a toilet roll tube up to my good eye, I really only have usable vision in my right eye.
Okay.
If you put a toilet roll tube up to your right eye, that is all I see straight ahead. So he said it was about a 2 or 3% field of vision.
Okay.
It did progress slowly, like you said. When I was in Boston for the Mass Eye and Ear, most of the people there were in their 40s and 50s, and most of them were much further progressed than I was. Like I said, I worked until 2011. I had to get a bigger screen so I could see. But yeah, it didn't progress fast. It progressed slowly. In the last few years, it's gotten aggressive. Since I moved here, I lost vision in my left eye, and my right eye is narrowed down to, like I said, a toilet roll tube.
Yeah, if everybody wants to sit there and make a circle with their thumb and forefinger, you know, like the OK sign, and put that up to your eye and look through it, that's pretty much the field of vision. You know, you can pretend you have RP. So,
yeah, but if you put it too close to the eye, if you put it too close, like I said, put a toilet roll tube up to your eye. That's what I see.
Mm-hmm.
If I put the toilet roll tube on, I take it away, I see exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
You know.
And it sneaks up on you because you just don't realize how much vision you're losing over time until you do something that you said, well, I had no trouble doing this earlier, and now it's more difficult.
Yeah, there was a time, we used to go with my sisters for Christmas and the holidays, different holidays. And one day she asked me, she says, well, what do you see? Do you see black? Do you see white? I says, what do you see directly behind you? She says, I don't see anything. I said, exactly. I don't see anything. And I put my hand, like, I can put my hands an inch apart, and that I just barely see the edges of them. So I told her, I says, you don't see black, you don't see white, because your brain covers up a lot of that. Everybody, from what I was told and what I read, everybody has a blind spot. All regular, normal seeing people have a blind spot. They just don't see it because the other eye covers it, and the brain covers over and lets you see what you need to see. And that was kind of amazing to me. And when I was going through this, they showed me where my blind spot was. He was able to do the testing and show me that I do have in each eye. He singled it so I knew where it was. But your brain covers it, cross-references it. And so, I mean, I told her, I said, I don't see black, I don't see white, I see absolutely nothing. And she couldn't understand that. Like, you got to see black, like you close your eyes, everything is dark. Well, with retinitis pigmentosa, you don't see that, you just don't see it.
Did you experience a lot of floaters in your eyes? Because I did.
I have floaters for as far back as I can remember. They look like little ants sometimes, little squirgly things.
Yeah.
I also, now I'm getting the flashing. I get flashes, and he said it could be two things. It could be the retina stretching and detaching a little bit at a time. He said, or it could just be, the condition of your eye. But I see it's like a half moon going around my eye, and they keep going and going. I see it mostly at night when everything is dark. That's when I notice it mostly.
Okay.
But I do get both. I get flashing, and I get the floaters.
Because I've always had the flashing, but it seems like when I see the flashing, for a period of time, then it seems like that's when I notice I've lost more vision. So that's been one of those interesting aspects of it. But the cause of the RP is really, well, it's a genetic thing. But your rods and cones, they're photoreceptors. And that's what sends the electrical impulses to your brain, and that's what makes your vision. With the RP, and Matt, if I'm incorrect in this, correct me, but isn't it the fact that the rods and cones grow and the enzyme that trims them doesn't exist with RP, and then because they don't have that enzyme to trim them, they'll grow and touch the retina, and when the rod and cone hits the retina, that's when you lose vision in that spot.
That could be. What I was told was that the cells die and they get covered over.
Okay.
And it's just not usable vision anymore. I mean, like you said, it doesn't let the light into the brain, to the nerve, to the brain, and you don't see it. I didn't hear about the bleeding or anything like that. It's just that, again, what he says is it dies. The rods and cones are just not usable because they have a growth over them.
Okay.
So, I mean, it could be either or.
That's one of the therapies they're trying with injecting, and I can't think of the word right now, but it's some kind of enzyme in there that they're trying to use a delivery method of a virus, and because that will get through the eye, and that enzyme is supposed to help trim the rods and cones. But the rods, they do your night vision, and the cones do your details and colors. And I think one of the first things with the RP is the rods work on your peripheral vision. And that's why you end up with the tunnel vision, because the peripheral vision goes away. And there's two kinds of RP. One is if the cones or the rods are affected first, then you lose your peripheral vision. And it gradually works its way into your central vision. And some people, the central vision stays fine. Other people, the cones, because they're detail and color, they, you lose that detail in the center of your eye. I think your cones are more in the center of your eye. And some people have the reverse. If the cones start deteriorating first, then they'll lose their central vision. And gradually it'll work out to the periphery. So that's the two kinds of RP.
Yeah, if I go from the street into a theater, or if I go into a dark building, I got to slow down quite a bit for a couple of, maybe a minute or two or three, till my vision adjust a little bit. I've walked into walls in theaters.
Oh, yeah.
The big screen is to my right. I'm walking down the hall coming from the bathroom to go back into the theater. And even though that big screen is there, I don't see it. So I'm walking straight, and I don't see the ambient light coming into my visual side. So
Okay.
I have to really be careful. And I use a cane now, but before that, I walked right into a wall once. And it was, if you have to go and then you make the right to go where the seats are. I didn't see the right. I didn't see the opening. I didn't see the screen. So like you said, the periphery goes. At nighttime, if I get up in the middle of the night, and I have all these little outlets in my house that have lights on them. They're like 3 little LEDs on the very bottom. They light the walkways. And that has helped greatly because that lights up the room enough for me to see and walk around the house. I still can't see detail, but I can see where I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a benefit. If somebody sees those, you can buy them in bulk, 20, 10, 20, whatever you want. And they're relatively cheap if you buy them that way. If you go to like Home Depot, they're a lot more expensive.
Okay.
And they're very easy to install. You just unscrew the old plate, screw the new plate in. It's got 2 little prongs on the side that hit the screw heads, and there's no wires that you have to remove.
Oh, neat. So, I know I've got a lot of night lights around for getting around at night too. And we can open this up to conversation now. Does anybody have any comments or any experience with RP they want to share?
Everyone is unmuted, so please participate as you feel inclined.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Sue. So it doesn't really affect the retina. It's more the cones and rods.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
She's
It
saying
doesn't
that does
affect
it
the
affect?
retina itself. It's just the rods and the cones.
Well, once they hit the retina, my understanding was, and I could be wrong because I don't like science, but I thought when they hit the retina, that kind of ruined that area of the retina to receive an image. So.
Oh, okay. So the retina doesn't atrophy itself, like shrink or
No.
get scarred or anything like that. It just stops working. It gets damaged.
Right. It gets damaged. It won't receive any visual images or
Okay.
electrical impulses or whatever.
Okay. Is your vision blurry like it is if you have macular?
It is now because my central vision's going. So I have to magnify everything I read.
Okay.
And everything is like in a soft focus right now. So.
Okay.
Um,
Go ahead,
Kathy?
ma'am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you had said that you had cataract surgery.
Yes.
The one thing that helped me with the cataract surgery, and I've heard horror stories of people who had cataract surgery, it made their vision worse. But the one thing that helped me with the cataract surgery is before the cataract operation, the best they can correct my vision was to 20/60. That was the best they can do with lenses. When I went for the cataract surgery, my vision with lenses now and astigmatism correction is now 20/30, which is a great thing. It hasn't given me more vision, but what I see, it gave me a clearer vision.
Oh, that's good.
Surgery about 3 years ago, I do notice though now that it is degrading again. So it helped for a while and the colors were very bright, but now it's starting to diminish a little bit. But that was one thing that the cataract surgery did for me. It let me use thinner glasses. My glasses were like Coke bottles. And now I got regular lenses and I can see 20/30, which is nice, but I still need reading glasses, of course, after the cataract surgery.
Okay, we're seeing that for you.
Yeah,
I'm
because
sorry?
they can't get me in. Oh, go ahead. Alicia, go ahead.
No, never mind.
Okay. Yeah, because I can't get corrected. I'm like at 2200, so, it is.
Pretty blind.
But they said, I've got 2 different figures. When I was researching, like the Foundation Fighting Blindness, their website was saying that it's a rare condition, but they said about 100,000 people in the United States have it. And then another website said that like 200,000 people every year get diagnosed. So I don't really know what to believe. I know it's not a very common disease.
I had heard it was a Mediterranean and Jewish disease. That's what I had heard.
Really?
It affects Mediterranean countries and the Jewish population.
Hmm.
That was years ago. I heard that years ago. I don't know how true that still is, but that's what I had heard.
You know, this is Maddie. You know where it's pretty prevalent is in mountain communities and sort of smaller communities. And the belief is that it's because sometimes family trees mingle, we'll say. And because it's an inherited disease in most of these situations. So it's interesting when you start to research it, like there's communities in Kentucky and there's huge amounts of the populations within those communities that experience vision loss from RP.
And the other thing, Maddie, is that I heard that blue-eyed people have it more than brown-eyed people.
Well,
I don't know if that's true or not.
You know, I haven't looked that up, but I did read something one time that said sometimes people with blue eyes are more susceptible to damage from the sun. So I don't know if that plays into that thought, but you know, I'm not here to spread that idea. I love my blue-eyed folks here, so.
Thank you, the blue-eyed folk.
This is Phyllis. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I have RP, but mine came a little different. I didn't really get it detected until I was in my 60s.
Wow.
But I think what happened was I always wore big glasses with the rims, you know, big glasses. And I think I probably had it before that, but I was only looking through my glasses. And one night I was playing cards and I looked at my daughter-in-law and I could not see her face. I could just see her hands. It hit me that fast.
Wow.
And they thought I'd had a stroke, and next day I was in the hospital, but it wasn't that. My mother, they think, had RP. But my vision is very cloudy right now.
Okay.
And I've lost sight one eye.
Oh, okay.
But everything you're all saying is, you're right on target with what I know. And I don't know much because I don't know anybody else that has RP, so this is interesting for me.
What was interesting is I was part of the vitamin A study at Mass Eye and Ear as well.
Oh, wow.
And when I came from Cleveland area, I didn't know anybody else who had been in this study.
Yeah.
Got down to Florida and I met Matt and about 3 other people that have been in the study. So
I went to Baskin Palmer in Miami.
Who was it that was saying the vitamin A? Can you tell me a little more about that?
Matt,
I was not on the early part of the call. I'm sorry, I didn't get on early.
Oh, that's okay. They did a vitamin A study at Mass Eye and Ear with 2 different doses of vitamin A palmitate and I think a regular vitamin E, and then just a placebo. And they wanted to see what they checked your diet, they checked your exercise. You know, if you took any other vitamins, and they seemed to think that a diet heavy in fish was helpful, but they thought that vitamin A would slow down the progress or stop it. And as far as I know, that was pretty inconclusive. Is that right, Matt? He went somewhere.
Matt, I think you muted yourself. Yeah. Matt, you muted yourself here. Hold on. I'll try.
I'm sorry, I muted. I didn't want to make noise. Yeah, the vitamin A with palmitate, it was so insignificant that it was not useful, they said. And like Cathy said, every time you went, you had to put down what you ate. You had to keep track of what you ate, any additional vitamins that you took. It was quite a good experience, but again, they didn't do anything. And they moved, like I said, they moved their research into genetics and into electronics.
Yeah. Well, there was like a full day of testing. They took a regular eye exam because if you wanted a prescription for glasses, you could get that done there. But they did the Electroretinogram. They did a light adaptation test. They did a color test. They did peripheral test. And there's 1 or 2 others too that.
Yeah, they had a battery. You were there all day, like you said. I would stay overnight at the hotel there,
Mhm.
It was just easier for me because getting back in the dark, your eyes were all dilated. And a couple of times I took the bus and it was a nightmare. All the lights were like starbursts going all over the place. So
Oh,
I just
geez.
decided to stay in a hotel overnight, and then the next morning it was decent. I can travel.
Yeah. It was a fun place to stay because you were right on Beacon Hill with all the old houses. So
Lot going on
I would go
around
for the weekend and tourist, afterward.
Where I went was Baskin Palmer down in Miami, and that's a
Okay.
wonderful place. And they did the same thing. You're there all day long.
I have a question as it relates to orientation mobility. So for the RP people that are on the call today that currently use a cane, do you feel like in the beginning you were a little resistant to using a cane, or were you open to it, or what was your feelings about using a cane that represented that you were blind, visually impaired, especially out in the community?
I think that was a big thing is, because I was working at a bank at the time as a teller, and, I didn't want to be obvious that I couldn't see. But, once I saw that it was much easier to get around and I wasn't tripping and falling over things, then it became easier. But there was a lot of resistance at first, I think. For me, I don't know about anybody else.
For me, it was basically the same thing. And Latricia, going through that training, though, was an excellent experience for me. I still, again, in my situation, I'm always with my wife since I don't drive. And anywhere we go, she'll lead me around. But I do use the cane. I do carry the cane. I bring it to church. I bring it to the meetings that I go to. So everybody now knows I'm visually impaired. I open it up at nighttime. During the day, not as much, because it's always in a controlled setting, and I don't use it in a room. I won't use it because I'm familiar with our hall that we go to. I'm familiar with the church, so I don't use it there. But I still have to watch out. And again, I carry the cane, but I do not use it except for at nighttime.
Okay. Yes, I was just expressing, I think a couple of sessions ago, I was just telling, the group that my experience as an O&M specialist with working with clients that have RP is that for me, I have noticed that most of them kind of wait to the very last moment to start using a cane. And I think part of that reason is because, in the daytime, a lot of them can still function, somewhat okay, but again at night, that's when most of your challenges are. So a lot of them that I have worked with in the past, were a little resistant to using the cane, but again with RP, change drastically as it did start to change. I did notice that they started to use their cane more.
Well, I just told my wife that we take from the house, we take like either a mile or a 3-mile walk. It's around the circle that we have. And I told her the other day that I'm going to start bringing my cane. This is during the daytime we do this. But I told her I'm going to start using the cane just again to get used to it. Because she tells me, why you constantly look down? And I constantly look down because I can't see. And I can see straight ahead, but you don't see anything below you.
Right.
So I told her I'm going to start using that. And there are like differences in sidewalks, and that's a killer if you don't see like something's a hill or a little lip or something. So I told her from now on I'm going to start using the cane on the walks we go with.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that would probably definitely make you feel better, Matt. Just to be able to detect those things a little bit sooner, and to keep your head up also.
Yep. See the rabbits and see the deer and see the birds.
Yes, you want to enjoy your walk.
That's it.
Yeah, it's much easier with the cane, and you're right. Keep your head up. I can sightsee now when I walk instead of trying to concentrate on where I'm walking.
Right.
Not tripping over curbs or bumps in the sidewalk.
You can walk a lot faster too that way.
Yeah.
As you get older, you don't want to fall. That's what you want to avoid, the falls, and that's the major thing. So
And I think
Yes.
it moves so slowly too. You don't really realize you need help until something happens. And that might be a reason people don't want to jump to the cane, because they think they can do just fine.
Exactly. But like Matt stressed that, you know, once you start kind of learning these skills and techniques, you know, early on, it definitely helps you later on when you do start to have that vision decrease, because you're prepared.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's not so, you know, frightening for you.
Well, I tell you, there's a lot of people that I met here who I feel should go for the training. But I look at myself and say, well, I resisted for a long time until Dr. Neffenegger said, you got to go.
Right.
And I try to get them in. I bring it up all the time. I don't force it on them, because you got to make your own decision, of course. But I say, have you thought about it? And, you know, they say, yeah, I'm still not ready yet. Okay. Mm-hmm. And some of them still drive with macular degeneration. Some have the wet, some have the dry. But, you know, I feel that they should go. It ain't going to hurt nothing. I said, I'll even go with you. I'll go to the course you go to. I'll sign up with you and we'll go together. You know, give them the incentive. But so far, I haven't been able to get anybody to go. That's why I wanted to have them down at the council and the church, just to give a seminar on it, to let them see what's available.
Yeah. And that's a good point, Matt. The person definitely has to be ready.
Definitely.
You know, it can't be because the wife wants it or your daughter wants it. It has to be something that the client wants, and, you know, and they're willing to fully participate in.
Well, that little switch has got to go on in your head saying, I need this.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's across the board for, you know, for all the training that the Lighthouse provides. You have to actually want to be in that training and to do your part.
I remember before I got my cane, I was at a convention in Columbus, and we had to go from one building to another. And it was all inside, but it was like downstairs, down escalators, upstairs. And I just kept thinking, boy, this would have gone so much easier if I had a cane to help me tell where the steps were. And, you know, I wouldn't be walking so slow and stopping at the top of the stairs and trying to get my bearing. And so that was, you know, just before I got my mobility training. But it was an eye-opening experience, so.
Yes, and that's the kind of you know, that's the thing with the RP eye condition, that again, with all these eye conditions, it varies from person to person. You know, someone could, you know, lose their vision very young, at a very young age, and, you know, for the next person, it may affect them much later in life. So you just never know.
And sometimes with RP, they get, you know, like other things going on too. Like, I think Usher syndrome, when you have hearing loss with that.
Yep.
My cousin had, I think, was it Coat syndrome, where she was getting all these things in her eyes, and they tried to fix it with laser, and it ended up damaging her retina more than it needed to.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I'm definitely familiar with the Usher syndrome. I've worked with several clients that, you know, were RP and also were hard of hearing. So
hard enough losing one, not both.
Yes.
Exactly.
I have a question for you. Do you think because RP starts in the peripheral and you don't lose that central vision right away, that you can sort of pass sighted for a while?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I know that's called passing. I have a lot of friends who have done that for a while. So you kind of get to ignore it, or maybe you feel tickled because people don't know that you have a vision impairment.
Right.
You know, if you have grandchildren, and they, you know, you hear them saying, oh, he's so clumsy, that's the time you may want to have their eyes checked, because they don't have the periphery to see. They may be losing it, you know, so that's a tip off. When somebody says, oh, he's so clumsy, well, maybe it's not just clumsy, maybe it's he doesn't see correctly.
True.
And most of the people I know have it they lose the peripheral first, but there's a few people I've met that have had the other kind, when the cones, the central vision goes first before the periphery. So. All the same disease, just lovely different faces.
This is Maddie again. I have another question for both of you. So when you were going through the testing, was it difficult for them to nail down what your eye disease was?
No.
Okay.
Once, I think because we knew what it was in the family, that's, you know, when I go to the eye doctor, you know, they knew to look out for that. But the definitive diagnosis is when I had my electroretinogram.
They tell right away. They know better than you, especially when you do the fields test, the visual fields.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go to any regular ophthalmologist or optometrist and you tell them you have it, right away they're very interested in seeing what it looks like. Back then, I don't know about today anymore, but back then it was a new thing too, and they all wanted to see. They want to look at your retina.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
They're giving you the drops and opening up your eyes and shining the bright lights in there. So.
Oh, did you ever get the camera pictures taken of your retina?
Yes. Yep.
That's
yeah.
awful.
Yes, it's awful.
Yeah, it is awful.
I like getting those. This is Maddie. I have RP in my family, and I hang my retinas on the fridge. Kathy, turn your ducks off.
You do what, Maddie?
I hang the pictures of my retinas on my fridge, like a, you know, like a.
Oh, I want my pictures. I don't have mine.
Oh, you should. They'll print them off for you.
I'll be darned. That is really funny. No, I have what they call this is Barb. I have what they refer to as atypical RP because I don't have the night vision issue.
Okay.
I never have had the night vision issue. I have very little vision now, mostly just light and shadow. And the shadows that I see no color anymore.
Okay.
It's all just white and gray and black. And once in a while, I'll get if I have a good day, I guess if I hit the right spot, I can see if something's blue or red or something like that. But I don't trust it. I can't trust my color perception at all.
Yeah, mine's gone too. I lost the yellows right away.
Yeah.
About maybe 15, 20 years ago. And reds and corals and oranges, those are real tough to make, you know, sort the differences out with.
Right.
And blues and greens, did you have trouble with those too?
No, blues and greens all look alike to me, or do always have, you know, they're harder to tell.
Yeah.
There's so many different shades of blue.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. But no one else in my family has RP.
Oh,
to my
okay.
knowledge. They've
You
never
were the
been able
lucky
to. Yeah, I hit the jackpot, I guess.
Yeah, I don't remember the class, but in the class, do you tell the people that on their computer screen they can change to the different kinds of print, like white letters, yellow letters, black background, light background?
They were talking about that this morning.
Yeah, we don't in class, but we let the technology guys do it.
Okay.
But I found reversing the images is much easier on my eyes.
Yeah, because right now I can't find the mouse anymore. It takes me forever. I have to go up to the corner, wait for it to pass my vision and get it. So when I type, if I'm typing anything, it takes me like 3 times the amount to type a letter that I would do in a minute. You know, so
Get Zoom text on your
thing.
computer. Yeah, get Zoom text.
yeah, if you zoom it, if you grow it bigger, then you lose the screen. You know, I want everything to be in the screen as best I can. If I go too far, then I got to scroll back and forth, and that creates another issue.
I have Zoom text, and the only thing I use off of it is the big arrow because I have the same thing. I can never find the arrow.
Yeah.
But it does not increase. You don't have to increase your font.
Font? Okay.
No. Yeah. So just look at the Zoom text.
Yeah, I thought I did that, but I couldn't. I thought I had that, but maybe I'll check it again just to make sure I picked the right one.
Yeah.
I thought I had the biggest arrow I can find, so I'll check it again.
I have one. Yeah. I have a question. Have any of you heard of? It is hereditary, but for a woman, it only goes from the mother to the daughters, or if the father has it, it only goes to the sons. Have you heard that anywhere? I was told that once.
I have heard comments about that. I don't know how true it is or how it works. Or I've learned a lot from listening to you all talking about RP today. So
I can jump in on that question.
There's a lot that skips generations, and like you said, there is a difference if it's the father's side, the mother's side. Mine was, they said it was not spontaneous, use another word, but it just popped up in me. He didn't see, again, they didn't see my mother. We don't know if my father or my mother had it, but they said sometimes it can come in very various types of ways, through the mother, through both the father and the mother, recessive, or there's different kinds. So it's
right.
Like Cathy said earlier,
the genetic issue.
So just to bounce off of that, there are 60 types of RP. So if you consider the word RP as more of an umbrella and all of the types bouncing down off of it, that's a better description of this. But the type of RP you're talking about is called X-linked, X chromosome linked, or sometimes it's called sex-linked. So that's when the male is affected by the disease, but the females aren't. So that's another type of RP.
Well, neither of my daughters have it, because they check all the time, and they tell the doctors all the time when they go, my father has RP, and they look for that, and they haven't had any signs, thank God. But that could be right. I might have the X-link. I forget what he told me. He told me what it was, but I forget which one.
Because there's also autosomal recessive and autosomal dominant. So there's like 3 different kinds.
There's a lot of different kinds. Yeah. That's why I was asking if it was hard for them to nail down what your actual, did they give you a specific type of RP, or were they able to just say RP?
When I was originally diagnosed, I started losing, or they became aware of my vision loss when I was 6 in school, when I couldn't see the blackboard, and
wow.
I'm older than dirt. So, and they actually, when I was 9 years old, they went through a whole series of tests at Mass Pioneer. They called it juvenile macular degeneration. And then it was much later on that they diagnosed it as RP. And that was when they did the scan that you talked about earlier. So I get this. There must be all kinds of different stuff that goes along with it. When I was a kid, I used to get up in the middle of the night and go out in the kitchen and eat cod liver oil capsules because I liked the taste of them. And I always wondered if that had anything to do with the vitamin A thing, vitamin A deficient.
Wait, you used to eat what?
Cod liver oil?
The fish oil capsules.
Oh, God. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
Cod liver oil's nasty.
It takes for it.
What I meant to say was to each his own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, my mom used to find me out in the kitchen, and she kept them up on the windowsill, and I would climb up on the counter and get them. So
Wow.
I must have liked the taste of them or something. I don't know if it was something my body was craving or the way. Yeah, probably.
I got one more
Strange things.
I got one more question. I won't ask any more because this is so interesting. Is there any kind of support group for RP and their caregivers that we could attend?
Not that particularly with RP, but either Manatee County or Sarasota County has the County Council of the Blind, which is from the Florida Council of the Blind. They're, regional chapters, and then that's under the umbrella of American Council of the Blind. And that's a advocacy group. But, there's a lot of stuff.
If you're on Facebook, there's a lot of support groups that are built into that if you want to participate in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about caregivers, but we are starting our support group for significant others next Wednesday. if anyone on here has someone that they're thinking of that might want to participate in that. But that is just general visual impairment, significant others of people with visual impairment. So.
Oh, I
Hey
found
guys,
out.
can you hear me?
Yeah.
It's Sandy. Hi. Does anybody know the difference between retina degeneration and what you're talking about, RP? Or is it basically the same thing?
Same thing. Ish.
I thought so. Thank you. All right. That's what I thought.
Yeah, because it's classified as a retinal degenerative disease. So.
Right. Then that's exactly what I have. Do you guys ever see halos? I see halos constantly.
Or glaucoma.
Sometimes
Would that be
halos,
cataracts?
yeah, sometimes halos can indicate a cataract
Or glaucoma too.
which when you have a RP is a lot of people experience cataracts when they have RP.
That's exactly what I also have. I was told I have that and glaucoma, but they don't want to touch the front of my eye, due to if there's going to be this miracle procedure for the retina, which I'm not holding out much hope for in the near future, if you know what I mean. I don't know.
They've been
Maybe
waiting
I'm wrong.
40 years for that.
That's what I mean. Yeah, exactly.
Glaucoma
Right.
gives a lot of that you're talking about, the glow around is
Halo,
typical
yeah.
of glaucoma.
Mhm.
The halo is typical of glaucoma too, and if your peripheral
Yes.
first.
Yes. Yeah, I'm lucky. I got the front end and the back end of the eyes all crazy. So I'm one of those lucky ones.
Yay.
Yeah.
I know glaucoma makes it kind of touchy to do any kind of procedures too. They don't necessarily want to
Right.
go
Right.
in
They
there
don't.
because it can make your eyeball crazy.
Yeah. Yep.
Somebody
Yep.
talked about
That's what I hear.
a cure a minute ago. I don't know if you're familiar with the Wynn Hotel in Las Vegas. The Mr. Wynn
No.
Yeah.
has RP. And I always said, because we've corresponded a couple of times, I always said, whenever I hear you've gotten the cure for it, then I know there's a cure because you got all the money in the world and you'll pay for it. I haven't heard anything from him.
I think we should all go stay there. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nice. Vegas is fun.
He's very nice, but he has RP very bad.
Well, there's a businessman in Cleveland, Gordon Gund, and he used to own the Cavaliers basketball team. And he's got RP, and he's one of
He's an eye doctor too, isn't he?
No, he's a businessman, but he hooked up with the Berman Gun Lab at Mass Eye and Ear.
Maybe it was his father that was the ophthalmologist then, years ago. But Dr. Gund, he was at Perkins School for the Blind when I went there.
Oh,
It's the same person. Yeah.
So
He was the doctor there.
Okay, yeah, I know his son made the money, so it's
interesting.
Yeah, but I'm glad they're putting their powers to good, for research and.
Yeah, definitely.
You're getting old when you call. Like I had called back to Mass Eye and Ear. I wanted to see if Dr. Burson was there because I had somebody else that has a different eye disease because she was born preemie, 5 months old. And I wanted to recommend her up there, and they told me that he had passed. And that was a shocker because I felt he was a young guy. But then I realized I've progressed 50 years since then. So. But,
Yeah, because wasn't that in the middle 80s, late 80s when we took that, when that study was going on?
Yeah. Early 80s, yep, early 80s maybe.
Yeah, because I went to see him in 2012, and he was getting up there.
Yeah, I went in 70, I think it was 77 or 78, 79, that time frame was when I went. I was 27 years old. I was born in 47, whatever that comes out to. But I went when I was 27 years old, so.
Yeah, I was in my middle 30s when we did that study.
I do want to mention that it's just a hair past 2 o'clock. We have to wrap up here because we have to move into our next class that is happening sometime soon. I want to thank Cathy and Matt for being here today and teaching us something new. I think this has started some conversations and hopefully helped some people who have RP and educated those who don't. And also has started us on a roll of talking about specific visual impairments. So tune in next week for something new.
Kathy, thank you for the call that sparked me to get on. So I'll probably be on more after this.
Oh, good, good. Well, thank you for participating because your insight's always so helpful.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.